and all of the ones that, all my individual and the 4x2, they were all best times. My relay split in the 4x2, the 2IM was a huge best time as well. The 2-3 was a big best time, all in Olympic finals. So, I couldn't really have done much more. So I think that was the main message and main thing to take away. We said before going in, if I do a PB in an Olympic final, I'll be there or thereabouts. But fair play to someone else who's able to drop and do a good and do a best time.
Welcome to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast, where we aim to give swimming the coverage and publicity it deserves. Every week, we celebrate the sport we love with amazing special guests and topics from around the swimming pool. And now, here are your hosts, Scott and Dan.
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. This week we are speaking to potentially, I know in our eyes, Dan's especially, the best swimmer in Britain right now.
Oh man, super excited for this one and can't wait to get going. We've been wanting to get this guest on for a while, and we've got a guest on who, if you've been following propulsion swimming for a while, you will know I've been banging his drum for a good number of years now. The guy needs no introduction, but we're going to give you one anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, you predicted him Tokyo 200 free gold. I think it was like 3 years ago now. 3 years.
Yeah.
So please welcome to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast, the man who made history in Tokyo by becoming the most successful British Olympian at a single Olympic Games. Welcome, Duncan Scott. Duncan, thank you for taking the time to speak to us. How are things with you?
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for the kind words as well. And I like the prediction 3 years ago. But things are pretty good with me. Just chilling just at home in Stirling. So just getting back to, I think we're four weeks on the trot now since just coming back after Christmas. So not pretty good.
Great stuff. So I'm going to kick things off by going through some remarkable achievements and stats. So a gold and 3 silvers at Tokyo, 12 British records in total, long course and short course, 5 World Championship medals, 11 European Championship medals, numerous short course titles as well, and the second fastest relay leg ever. With all these incredible accomplishments so far, is leaving a legacy in the sport important to you?
Tough one to start.
It's probably something that I've never really thought about in all honesty until probably after the Olympics. It's something that a lot of people like to ask questions about, because legacy is quite an important thing. Whether that's legacy of that like, for example, the London Games left behind in London after 2012, or Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Legacy is really important for those things, but also for athletes. And I think it's something that really drives Petey on. I think it's something that he puts that quite high as to one of his motivating factors. For me personally, it's not something that I've ever really thought about, but being the Learn to Swim ambassador for Scottish swimming, it's something that I've sort of thought about, the more and more that I've done that. And, I don't really know what I can do to try and increase that or, do differently. But like, it's something that I'm conscious of. For me, it's more around how can I create like what I do to increase the number of people retaining and staying in the sport, but then also wanting to get involved in it. I say the two important factors for me.
Yeah, I mean, when you look through your career so far, we believe that you should be on par, or even potentially even bigger than Adam Peaty in terms of public popularity. Is increasing your profile or the sports profile something that interests you?
Yeah, I'd say so. As long as the legacy, it's not something that I get frustrated. I guess with you guys as well. Like saying at the start, that's one of the reasons that you started the podcast is the lack of attention that our sport gets. I guess a bit frustrating. I guess just not for myself, but just for British swimmers in general, because there's so many performing at the highest level that just don't really get much attention. So yeah, I would say that, I think Petey's drawn, has helped the sport within Britain so much over the last few years. From 2015, his dominance has really sort of grown it, and numbers like back-to-back years getting nominated for spotting, stuff like that, I think helps a lot. But yeah, it is a little bit frustrating, you know. But I think I'd like to, you know, rather like let my results sort of do the speaking. You know, if they're pretty good, then I'd like to think that helps draw people to the sport. And you know, it's quite exciting with things like ISL. I think has increased popularity, and I think, you know, the best Olympics that we've had in however many years. You know, I think things like that really help.
Yes, I think the learn to swim ambassador bit is the interesting bit, because what was it? At the start of this week, I had a phone call with Dan, and we were talking about how do you actually grow the sport of swimming? Because it's a very hard question. When essentially, if you look at the Olympics, the people who are going to watch swimming are people who used to swim, who have been at swimming clubs. So if you're able to almost enhance the transition from the learn to swim over to the club program, that will then grow the viewership of the sport and grow the sport further. So I actually think you being the ambassador right at that first stage is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And as I say before, like it's something that it's another area of being the ambassador that I was a bit unaware of, to be honest. And I think for me, crucially, I think within Scotland, but Britain as a whole, just keeping swimmers involved, I think is really important. You know, you see so many people drop out around the age of 14, 15, you know, as the exams start to get, you know, you don't necessarily need to be doing ridiculous amounts of training. You know, it's that can happen later in your, you know, when you're slightly older. So, yeah, I think just keeping people involved, I think is so important. But as you say, I think, you know, the earlier that people are able to get into the water, I think as well, is a good sign.
Is it a case of doing different sort of TV shows? Like, for example, Anna Hopkin did Question of Sport, and Adam's obviously recently been on Strictly. Are those the sort of things you'd be wanting to take part in as well?
Dancing on ice.
Yeah.
I mean, the Question of Sport, I've come knocking a couple of times, but to be honest, it's at points where I've sort of been like, I mean, come on, like, I've got Europeans in a month, or, you know, other things. So, you know, I love sport, so I'd like to think, you know, I like watching the show, and, you know, I was a huge fan of the old hosts. I thought it was really good fun. I love, like, growing up with that. It was really good. But yeah, I'd say with this some regard, because then but that's a different market entirely that sort of watch that. You know, with Petey doing Strictly, that's a completely new market for him. That with some of them will, you know, as big as he is in the world, you know, they'll be completely unaware of who he is. Oh, it's another swimmer. But like every week, he's increasing the knowledge of people around Britain of our sport. But you know, I think it's good that people are accepting. I think, you know, Anna doing that, she might have been wanting to do it for her own reasons, but unconsciously she's actually increasing the awareness of swimming as well. So yeah, for me, you know, it's not something that I'll be looking to do anytime soon. You know, I've never actually been on ice, so dancing on ice would be an absolute disaster for me.
Surely you've been on some ice in Scotland.
I've never been on ice skates. I've been on ice.
What I'm hearing here is you're very much focused on the here and now, focused on the sport. And your racing style certainly suggests that. So I think if you just look back at ISL, after every single race you do, you're spent. You've put in 100% into almost every race, no matter what the level of competition is. So what is your mindset when you go into racing mode?
I actually really like so like the whole thing with, like, at the end of a race, so you see some guys, like, just, I don't know, so they act like it's not really hurt them or other things. I grew up and I loved watching Laszlo Che race, and after every race he'd just show, like, if it was a heat of a 2-fly, 100-fly, he just looked absolutely spent after it. And like, he wouldn't even try and hide it. You know, it's a 2-fly, it's going to be hard, but you've got some people trying to hide the fact that it's hard. Anyway, that's a different. It annoys me. But yeah, I think, like, for ISL and then also other competitions, I feel like the mindset can be very different. For ISL, I think it's just about being really relentless. You know, with, you know, every race I've got to try and go in, you know, and my mindset's very much one at a time. You know, I think a couple of times I had something that I've never even done before. Someone that's done quite a lot of multi-events. You know, I had four races, some sessions in Naples, you know, coming off the back of several weeks off training and being landed with this. I'm like, what? So yeah, it's very much like one race at a time, you know, and you know, leave it all in the pool here, and then we'll get myself ready for the next one. And you know, in some regard, you know, I do surprise myself, and in others, you know, it's something that I've done my entire career. You know, some really tough doubles, some back-to-backs that have been difficult, you know, or even over several days, you know, 5-6 days. You know, at trials 2015, 2017, I made sure I had a race, you know, most sessions to give myself a challenge, because that's what a Worlds or an Olympics is like. You know, it is really difficult. Back-to-back sessions, you got to go fast every day. So, yeah, it's a different mindset, I would say.
And what are you like in the call room? Are you the sort of person where you put your headphones in, you're very silent in the corner, you know, psyching yourself up, or are you the sort of Chad Leclos, sort of shadow punching boxing like he did to Phelps?
Yeah, I didn't quite work out for him, did it? Yeah, I think it's like, I think for me, a lot of the time I put music in, but you know, I'll quite happily chat if someone wants it. It's been quite good having Dino. You know, we'll have a little chat or a laugh, you know, at particular moments, or you know, if I'm in there with relays. But yeah, I usually try and keep it pretty similar. You know, music on, because if it's the same everywhere, then you know, I just think that helps with preparation. And with ISL, you know, I wouldn't go music just because, you know, I'm just still soaking, so I can't really put any music in.
There's enough music on poolside.
Yeah.
You say going into like Worlds or events like that, it's a challenge. Is there a reason you make it such a challenge for yourself by doing so many events? Has there ever been a time where you thought, let's focus on one, let's focus on this for a year?
Well, for the Olympic year, the second Olympic year, I guess, after COVID, I guess after 2019 Worlds, we had a sit down, and just the conversation around, you know, what to prioritize and what events to really look at. And I think it was just more to push towards the 200s. You know, at 2019 Worlds, I chose not to do the 100 free because it was my first chance sort of doing the 2IM on a full international scene. I did it at commies before, but it's the first time to sort of try and make a final. So yeah, it was the main focus around doing the 200s. But yeah, I mean, being a part of Britain, it's difficult if you do any relay event. It's difficult to just prioritize. If I do 2 free, I could do 3 200 frees if I make the final, and then let's say I do the heat. That's me at 5 200 freestyles. That's Dino at the Olympics. You know, you're ready. He did 5 on the trot. So you know, but I think that's a great thing about being a part of our team. You know, you can be a part of these immense relays. But you know, these hard programs that I would say at Worlds, for me, you know, I'm like, oh, I've got a day off, or I've got one, or I've just got the single that day. You know, for me, because of the way that I've tried to challenge myself, you know, in season competitions, or you know, at certain things that we've done in training, you know, I know that I'm more than capable of doing that. And in some regard, I'm like, oh, once that race is done, you know, I've just got the football and medley, for example. I've got a morning off, and then we're ready to go. So, you know, I think there's ways around it, and you know, I don't find it too bad. But Olympics was pretty long. It was pretty meaty.
So you wouldn't prefer to just be a single event swimmer? Let's say Ben Proud, for example. You wouldn't want to focus on one sole event.
Who wouldn't want to be Ben Proud? Who wouldn't want to be Ben Proud? That's
true.
For multiple reasons.
Yeah. A big guy. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, I'm kind of for the entire time that, I mean, even for like Bucks, for example, that was an area where it was like I had no choice, but you know, to help to help out Stirling Uni, you know, I just had to do events like 2 fly, 4 IMs and stuff like that, to 1500s and stuff like that, just to try and help the team out. And I think, you know, that sort of mindset for me was, you know, why do I have to narrow it down? Like, why do I just have to pick 2 free? And I think that this year, or last year, should I say, kind of showed that. You know what? Why should I drop off one if the other's still, you know, pretty solid? I would say that's fair enough. If the other ones, you know, if I'm making a semi or not making it through the heats, but you know, I'd like to think I'm fairly competitive in both.
Yeah, I mean, you're dropping events that you're British record holder in, so. I mean, it's not bad at all. You said you do training to prepare yourself for such a rigorous program. What does that entail?
Yeah, I would also say that I think a lot of people that don't do it train for it as well. I just think that they've just maybe never done it in a competition setting before. You know, I remember Canny quite a few years ago trying to get me ready for Worlds in 2019. It was 2019 actually, and I had a 2 IM and 100 free straight away back after it, because that's what it would be if I did actually do that at Worlds 2019. But that first time I did it, it was terrible, and I think it's just because my mindset was, you know, I'm already tired.
Yeah,
and I think I did it at a competition several weeks later, and it was just loads better. You know, I'd already tried it, I've done it. You know, I think it's just about that. It's more the mindset thing. But in training, I can't think of anything specifically. But you know, time trials that we might do, I might have particularly hard back to backs, or even in sessions. You know, once some difficult, you know, turnarounds, for example, or things like that. But I think because of now how long that I've done it for. I'm just quite confident in my ability, because of how many times that I know that I've done it. You know, that I look at breakdowns, and you know, whether it's ISL where I'm like, oh, 15 minutes. You know, for me now, I'm like, I can try and make this work, I guess. But you know, it's a completely different ball game short course for sure. But you know, I definitely think it's definitely practice within the environment. I think it's important.
Do you have a set schedule in terms of certain days you work on certain strokes or certain energy systems, or is it literally based on how you're feeling on that particular week?
Yeah, sort of. I definitely say stroke-wise is a little bit different. That's just how I'm feeling. But, you know, tonight, for example, on a Friday, we do, you know, it's always a kick and pull set. Tuesday night, Thursday night are both pretty hard sessions. And Monday night's speed. So there's key part, and then Wednesday mornings like endurance kick. You know, and throughout it there's sort of you know, within that there's key strokes that I would do. You know, most main sets, you know, are either I try and include all 4 strokes, or you know, it might just be freestyle specific. But you know, that's one of the elements that I really enjoy with medley is the variation in training. And the constant, you know, there's so many things to work on in all 4 strokes that, you know, there's so much to improve on.
Yeah, I don't think I could be a 1500 swimmer, because the training would just be 31s pretty much 3 times a week. Oh, same thing.
See, come on, guy, you're trying to, that's you putting people out of the sport right there. You don't have to do 31s to do a 1500.
Oh, that's just my personal feeling on the 1500.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. I think that's, you know,
there you go,
like, I think it's like, you know, that it's people's like mindset is like, oh, swimming training's really hard, like it's horrible, like early mornings, or 3100s, like you're saying, for a 1500 swimmer. Whereas like it's probably just that's what's happened in Britain, or like at certain points in certain clubs. Whereas like I don't know how Velbrook trains. Like he might do like 80k, but a lot of it might be kind of steady. Like I don't know, but you know, I just think it's what we think.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to train for 1500 because but you know what I'm saying.
Where does this? It's a really positive mental attitude you've got towards everything. Is it? How much of this is? We've spoken to Tom Bates before in the background. Is it a lot of work with him? Is it psychologists up in Stirling as well? Is it just your way of approaching swimming?
Well, I don't know. Like, I do really like Tom Bates. I think he's really good. I like working with him last year. That's probably the most I've worked with him. I do really like him. And I think, you know, what he's done within British swimming, like the focus on culture as well, has been really important. And I think really beneficial as well. But I would say a lot of it's sort of been drilled in, and you know, just with how long I've been coached by Steve. You know, I'd say for a while, you know, I didn't probably truly believe in myself or my ability. For a long time, and you know, I'd say the sort of certain things that he was trying to get me to do in training, and the way he wanted me to swim races, you know, it took me a while to believe. But you know, the way that he would speak and sort of motivate me or try and get me to do things, it sort of helped me one, you know, be a bit more positive, and to, you know, believe in my own ability a bit more.
So you'd never move away from Stirling as of right now?
So never, and then as of right now, yeah, Yeah, I wouldn't. I can't see myself moving in the not too. I can't see myself moving anytime soon. That's for sure. You know, I really enjoy here, being here about 7 years now. So
Yeah.
no, I love it.
Results are good. So
So one thing we really wanted to bring up with you, it's almost a case study we've heard
Here
before.
we go.
It's your early your early years through swimming when you were 14, 15 and crossing over with playing tennis. So how important was it for you to keep doing another sport while you were in the sport so young? Because I know there will be a lot of 14, 50-year-olds listening who think, I need to put all my energy into swimming right now.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing like lots of different sports when I was younger. I personally think that's quite important, but you know, I'm no expert in the youth, you know, the development of junior athletes to senior athletes. But you know, I just think I just found it really enjoyable, and I think at that age it's really important. Enjoyment most certainly comes first, and as it should all the way through. But you know, and it allowed me to only do a limited number of sessions, you know, in the pool. You know, it meant that I couldn't do, you know, a huge amount of training, you know, because I'd be away, you know, playing tennis or doing some other sports. So, you know, I did really enjoy that element. But then, you know, once the decision had to be made at some point, because, you know, swimming's kind of hard to balance a lot of things. So, yeah, no, I took the decision purely on enjoyment and who I was doing it with, which I preferred that way.
But still playing tennis didn't inhibit your swimming ability whatsoever.
I mean, it might have at that age, but why does it matter at 14 or 15, or why does it matter at 13 or 14 how good I am? I guess it's not something I've ever considered or that I've ever thought has been a downfall. You know, I really enjoyed playing tennis, so no, I mean, I can't say that was a particularly 13, 14, I can't say they're the results that I particularly look back on and think, oh, geez, I should have changed them.
Yeah.
no, I mean, I actually think that's actually the message that needs to be passed out there, that when you're 13, 14, the results aren't the driving factor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, you know, I think it's all about, like, you know, it can be different for different people. You know, there might be some really driven, you know, 13, 14, 15-year-olds that, you know, it is. And at the moment in time, you know, it might be, you know, British youths that, you know, when you're pretty young, or British age groups, you know, at that moment in time, you know, it is the biggest thing. You know, it is so important. But you know, as I say again, you know, I don't know the development, and I wouldn't ever say that I'm right, but it's something that I would think, for me personally, I would prioritize is, you know, technical aspects and enjoyment. I think are really important around that age group, because, you know, I think that around the winning, obviously that's huge and being really competitive, but the biggest aspects for me are technical, and then the enjoyment, because that's going to keep them in the sport for a longer period of time.
Yeah. Do you reckon kids are getting pushed too early at the moment? Because as far as we're aware, you didn't do any early mornings until quite a later age. Do you think swimmers in general are starting early mornings too early, or being pushed too hard too early?
Yeah, I hurt in the mornings these days. I don't know. I mean, it's a long time since I actually did a club visit, to be honest. So I don't actually know the sort of, but I guess the general consensus is probably yes, that a lot of them are, and that's not me trying to inhibit the up and coming generation, because that's the last thing I want to do. But if anything, I'm trying to help their longevity. You know, I want to see them be around for longer and be better as they get older and improve for a longer period of time. But then again, you know, I no coaching qualifications or teaching, so you know, I think it's just, I'm just trying to relate it to what I've done and what I've seen, especially within swimmers that I've trained with as well.
I just like the enjoyment message. Essentially, if you're enjoying it, that's all that matters.
Well, I've always said that you won't win Olympic gold at 13. So why is it results driven?
Should we talk about Tokyo?
Fire away.
Did you come away from it feeling like the most successful British athlete at a single games? Was there any inkling of that at all as part of your achievements in Tokyo?
That was it's not something that I realised that I was on for, to be honest. It's not something that I went into trying to achieve. Steve brought it to my attention, I think, just before the 4x1 medley final. Just as, I guess, as an added bit of motivation. More rather in terms of getting the job done rather than, it was, for us, it was more about, trying to challenge for winning it. But I think, straight away after, immediate reactions for me were quite mixed, because of how much I was racing. I didn't have an opportunity to think about anything. Every time that I'd raced, it was, the 200 free was first. I had to try and park that because next event was the 4x2. We had an amazing opportunity in that, and then straight away it was the 2IM the next day, and then the second I finished that 4x1 medley. So I didn't really have a chance to sit back and think about my races. So, once I got back home, it was a real sort of, I had to think about everything. It was mixed emotions throughout my races, but and then again, as you say, I was probably a couple of weeks later until I was like, oh, geez, like that's actually, it's a lot bigger achievement than, something that I initially realized, 4 medals, the most that a British athlete has ever won. So I was a bit taken back by, by hearing that statement.
Yeah, I can kind of understand it because all of the 3 silvers were kind of unlucky.
Close.
Yeah, and even the gold that you won in the 4x2, just missing the world record as well. So you kind of like unlucky on all of them effectively. So I can understand why you had a little bit of a negative feeling, but you have to reflect. And actually, you had such a good game, such a good summer.
Oh, that 4x2 one was devastating. But yeah. I mean, some of them were kind of close, but it was and all of the ones that all my individual and the 4x2, they were all best times. My relay split in the 4x2, and the 2IM was a huge best time as well. The 2 free was a big best time, all in Olympic finals. So I couldn't really have done much more. So I think that was the main message and main thing to take away. We said before going in, if I do a PB in an Olympic final, I'll be there or thereabouts, but fair play to someone else who's able to drop and do a good and do a best time.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's got to be hard to lose to your teammate at the same time, but I think the strength of British swimming and the culture showed by the fact that the next day you then went and won a relay together. And to be fair, there was no sign of any sort of animosity whatsoever. No,
not at all. I mean, Dino is someone that I've really enjoyed being on teams with since 2018 Europeans. I think was his first team, and being on a 4x2 with him there. And we get on so well outside of the pool. We're actually in an apartment together in Tokyo. So no, it was getting to 1-2. I think was really special. And getting to race alongside him is really special as well. We 2-3'd earlier that year at Europeans as well, which was quite cool. So yeah, no, I love racing with Dino, and then obviously it was class getting the win with him later in the week, or just a day later. In fact, I think it was quite tough for him. He had to go 3 in a row and then do the morning heat of the 4x2, which I don't know if I thought personally that was the right decision. I think
Litchfield in there.
Yeah, or taking, Cam Curl was left at home. He went 146.
Yeah, standard. I mean, he was the only one not to go, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he'd probably be on any other team in the world. So, and then, if he's rested, then, who knows? But I think that's quite a tough, asking him to go at night and then go again the next morning. Yeah. But, absolutely. Same with a lot of the British swimming guys. We get on so well. So, it was quite special.
Yeah, I mean, a 4x1 medley team is looking pretty special at the moment. We actually thought we had a really good chance of knocking the Americans off their perch, but of course they were in the outside lane. Do you reckon you would have chased down Zach Apple if he was in the lane next to you?
Get on a nice wee wave again.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we can't take anything away from what they did. They had, look at those splits afterwards, and I'm like, wow. Like, it's not to say we've got the fastest breaststroke in the world by a long shot. So, you've got to go into every relay opportunity and be like, we can definitely win this. With Jimmy popping out relay splits that are, some of the fastest ever as well is kind of helpful. Yeah. But I think that those American boys, they stepped up a lot. What they were able to put together was a phenomenal performance. And Michael Andrew, I think he had a really tough week. He did a great split, but the last two legs I think are just. They got 46 point on the back end and a 48 point on the fly. It's just, that's just there. It's almost like the mixed medley, I think, for Britain. I'm like that. There's some unbelievable legs in that as well. So yeah, it's a bit frustrating, but I think that shows how far that relay team has come. In 2016, we were overwhelmed with a silver, and then 5 years later, silver almost seemed like a bit of a disappointment.
That's crazy.
It's a weird thing to think. So like we began this interview, you're Olympic, world, European champion. What's the next goal? What's the motivation that keeps you going?
So I think obviously the next big thing is Paris, 3 years away. So about getting myself in the best possible shape and finding out what to do to get there for that to happen. So it's all about prepping for that. Outside of that, the motivating factor straight after the games was the short term. So, the whole of the ISL was quite exciting for me. But yeah, I think it's different targets each year. It's quite exciting that we've got Commonwealth Games this year, every 4 years. But for me, it's just about, I think there's still opportunities in both of my events, on areas to improve on. That's the biggest thing for me. I love coming in every day and trying to improve on, smaller aspects that add up and make a big difference. And I'm so lucky, and I think a lot of the people in Britain are, of all the other people around you that are helping you do that. From sending you videos to helping you analyze different aspects. So for me, it's just continuous improvement. Continue what I'm trying to do already.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the Scottish team for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. What is the importance of commies to Scotland? Is it quite a big deal?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's just because of how, it's only every 4 years. Some people that, don't necessarily ever get on British teams, are able to, it's an opportunity for them to race internationally and be a part of the Scottish team, which is quite exciting. But also because of the size of the country, usually we know each other so well. When we're on that team, the 2018 team, I thought it was just like we were there with a bunch of friends. To be honest, it was really good fun, and so yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest thing. And I think with Birmingham, just down the road, I think that makes it quite exciting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the standout event for us is that 200 free. It's almost a rematch of Olympic trials, and then you throw in a few South Africans, a few Aussies as well. I think that's going to be a wild race,
monster race. Yeah,
so, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
So, final question, and I know we started with a big question, so we'll kind of end with one as well. If there was one piece of advice you would give to any swimmers who are listening to this, what would it be?
What age are they, or just any?
Oh, it was a vague question, wasn't it? I don't know. Didn't think of it. Should we just go age grouper?
Okay. That's a difficult question. I would say, like, for me, I thought what I unconsciously did well, and I think that I think that's probably down to the people that I was surrounded by. The coaches that I had at that age. Steve, and then Elaine Johnson when I was at school, is just around, as I've mentioned before, enjoyment. That instilling that competitive instinct into the swimmer, I think, is really important as well. But then as well at that age, you're so young, you're still developing. There's so many other important aspects to your life at that age that it's just swimming at that point. It's not, you're not doing it for your career. You're still at school. School's so important. It sets you up for, later life. You might be, there might be several things going on there. So I would just say, I wouldn't get hung up on particular results that happened 13, 14, 15, and I'm not going to say age groups that I disagree with all the way up, but I think it's just but then at the same time it's really difficult at that age to see that. You see the time and that's all you see. It's difficult to put your blinkers on and just focus on yourself. But yeah, I would say it's probably more for a parent is to try and move your swimmers on or your kids on for as quickly as possible after particular swims. A lot of the time it's kind of irrelevant, the 12, 13, 14, what's happening at that age, the technical stuff and enjoyment's way more important.
Yes, the parents and the coaches, like the other two parts of the triangle that are the most important parts at that sort of age, I think. So yeah, enjoyment definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Duncan, it's been great speaking to you. If you don't mind, we usually finish with some quick fire questions. Do they sound good for you?
Yeah, go for it.
So what is your favourite event?
Difficult one to start. 2-3.
Who is your swimming idol?
Well, the age group that I grew up in, it has to be Phelps. And I'm going to say Thorpe as well. And then I'm going to say Hoogenband as well. I'm going to take 3.
Nice. What is the proudest moment in your swimming career so far?
Oh, jeez, that's difficult. Probably, I'd say being the most decorated Olympian at a single games.
What's the hardest set you've ever done in training?
I don't actually know, to be honest. You try and block them out. You try and get rid of them. I went on. I think a couple of guys have done this. This isn't very quick fire, but I went on a camp with Luke Greenbank, Martin Walton, Charlie Atwood. I think a couple other age groups have done that, where they send you out to Japan. And some of the sets we were doing there was just horrible. I've thankfully never done anything like that again in my life. But yeah, all of those sessions.
Can you think of one particularly or not?
Well, we did 10 fours iron kick and pull, and then at end of every session it was 2100s best average. I was just like, what? But yeah, at the same time, it kind of got funny just because we were like, what is going on here? There were some ridiculous ones that I can't. It was December 2014, so it was a little while ago now.
It's funny. Wow. It's almost like a theme through this whole podcast is on to the next thing. There's no looking back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And final question, if you were to go on a road trip, there's 3 spaces in the car. Who would you have with you? They can be friends, family, or celebrities. Bit of a curve.
Oh, friends, family, or celebrities.
Dead or alive, difficult. If that adds to the dimension to it as well.
Even more options. God. Well, okay, I'm going to go dead just because, I think it's important. I'll include someone that's dead. I'm simply going on this road trip to have a good time. So I'm going to bring Sean Locke, who was a comedian who died last year, passed away. I was a massive fan. I really enjoyed watching him on 10 Cats, those countdown and stuff like that. He's hilarious. And then, it's really difficult. I don't know. I can't pick an either. I'm gonna go. I'll go Ricky Gervais. This is the next one.
This is a very funny car so far.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Was it 3? Is it 3?
Go on more.
Oh, geez, I didn't know it was 3. I thought it was just 2. I thought it was 3, including myself. Right, and the third person. I don't know. Do I take a family member to enjoy the humor with me? I don't know. What they added? No, I'm joking. I don't know. This is difficult. I'll probably go Lee Mack. I'll just go for pure comedy value. I'll just get 3 comics involved, and then I'll probably just have a great time. Yeah.
You'd enjoy that card, Dan, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, all of those 3.
Great stuff. Well, Duncan, thank you so much for coming on to this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. Best of luck for 2022 and the road to Paris now. We can't wait to see what happens with your busy schedule and hopefully more multiple medals.
Best of luck. You've got a massive year. Well, actually, massive couple of years coming up, to be honest with you. So yeah, best of luck for that and everything else in between.
Perfect. No, thanks very much for having me. Yeah, no, it's been great. So yeah, we look forward to this year and see what happens.
Great stuff. So that just about rounds up this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or YouTube. Dan, I will see you in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.